Welcome to PhotoshopUser TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to a vestigial episode of PhotoshopUser TV. I love that word.
Okay.
So
are you saying that this episode really doesn't matter?
Really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. No, it really does. So welcome, guys. I'm Corey Barker, and I am, of course, joined by the other Photoshop guys, Mr. Pete Collins.
How's it going?
And Dave Cross.
Hello, everybody.
Dave, you're back.
I am back.
Where have you been?
I've been traveling all over the place, doing
all over the
seminars
place,
and
yes.
all kinds of fun.
Good deal. All right, so we've got a lot of cool stuff coming your way, and we've got prizes too, somewhere.
Prizes.
We do have
a new
brand new book
to talk about, everything like that. So let's get right into it. I think Dave's going to kick us off with something pretty cool.
Hold on, wait. Before we start, we forgot.
We forgot something.
We forgot Corey.
Yes. I'm going to lose my job once again. We are, in fact, brought to you by Photoshop User Magazine, or the NAPP, actually, which is the producer of Photoshop User Magazine.
Now we go to this camera over here.
That cover story is by our very own RC Concepcion.
Now, for those of you also that just happened upon us today by some fluke, we're live on kelbytv.com/on-air. And then you can also, the recording of the show will be available later on as well. So you can either watch it, some of you are watching live right now, and some people will watch it later.
And also, if you stay tuned after this episode, you can actually catch a sneak peek of next week's.
A future episode. We'll be in the future.
We will jump ahead in time, and you can see next week's tutorials right after
one
the
other
show.
thing we should mention real quickly before we get started, and that's our favorite event is coming up very shortly. Photoshop World is only a couple of weeks away now in Washington, D.C.
March 24th, yes.
Get plenty of sleep now, because you won't there.
No.
And for those of you, I mean, it's still not too late to sign up. There's always some kind of special going on where you can get something if you sign up. You can go to photoshopworld.com to find out all about that. I think it's going to be really exciting. It's a new city for us after
exactly.
many times in the same one.
Not just new for the attendees, but new for us, new for everybody. So whole new event. So.
Well, and it's also going to be the Cherry Blossom Festival.
That's right.
While we're there. So if you're into flowers and photography,
and one
great
other
time to be there.
note that my wife, who's so clever, noticed, and this is like the first time in a long time it's actually over a weekend.
That's true, yes.
Photoshop World
Good
normally
point, yes.
is during the week. It might end on a Saturday, but this one actually is.
Because keynote day is
Saturday,
actually
Sunday,
on a
Monday.
Friday. Yeah, that's really new. Usually that's ending on a Friday, so that's very interesting. It'll be very interesting. A lot of firsts for this one. I'm being told.
So
by our
we're
producer
getting
that
hollered from off screen. Don't mind us.
So I'm going to do my quick tip first. Yes. Our producer's telling me that I'm going.
You
Sorry,
got the
Dave.
thumbs up. That's okay.
Forget you, Canadian.
No problem at all.
I actually just have a really quick tip here regarding using the pen tool. And I have my, check it out. Plug here.
Ooh, shiny.
I've got my wireless Intuos 5.
Brand new.
If you caught the webcast earlier this week, I'm using this. I'm actually using it in wireless mode. I've got my little wireless dongle in the computer here. Love it. But that's not my tutorial.
It could be, though.
But it could.
That's impressive.
I actually am going to touch on a little bit more of this in the next episode, so be sure to check us out. But let's get into Photoshop and talk about what I'm actually going to talk about here. I actually have a file created.
Ooh.
You will feel the wrath. Now, actually, this is kind of two little quick tips. One is, I'm always getting asked, how do you convert text into paths, vector paths inside Photoshop? And it's really, really quite easy. And I've seen people go and they'll make a selection, and then they'll turn that selection into a path, and it just doesn't give it quite right. And what they don't realize is that there's a feature built right in. If you go over here to the layer and right-click or control-click right on the layer, the text layer itself in the empty area here, go down here and choose Create Work Path. Now, you don't see anything, obviously, but if I turn the layer off, you can see that it did, in fact, trace it very accurately, creating a work path. Now, it's not a saved path, of course. It's over here, and it just lives over here as a work path. To save it, we'll just merely double-click it, and there you can give it a name if you like, but who has time to name things?
Path 1 is an awesome name.
I love the default names. All right, but here's my other point. When I get to wanting to distort text like this with a path, when I convert it, I'm going to use things like the direct selection tool and maybe grab a little bottom part here. And of course, you can tell the path points are selected by their being solid, not hollow. And I can just drag and deform the text like this. Now, if you go and grab the pen tool itself, now you'll notice when you go into the pen tool, there are several different pen tools. You've got the standard pen tool, the free form pen tool, and add and delete anchor points. Now, I never actually go and select add and delete anchor point because if you go and have the pen tool itself selected, and up here in the options bar, you've got an option called Auto Add Delete. As long as that is checked on, you can merely move your cursor over a control point that already exists, and it will turn into a minus symbol, allowing you to delete it, or move your cursor over the line or path itself, and it turns into a plus sign, adding a control point. Same function that these tools do, but it saves you the trouble of going over there and selecting, I need to delete an anchor point. Oh, go over here, grab the tool, and go over and do that. You don't need to do that as long as you have that option checked on. So it's just a really quick thing when you're editing your paths, which we all know, getting into complex paths can be a lot of fun. But there's my 2 little quick tips for converting your path, text into paths, and being able to edit them on the fly with just a single tool. So
I think the other interesting thing to note is if you go back to your layers panel, the type layer is still there. So it's actually made a path from the type layer, but it hasn't converted it, because some people would like rasterize or something to do that. You don't have to. You can still keep it a live text path.
In the event, I need to go back and do something else or start over, I don't have to go completely to the beginning. Still got that text layer.
Well, and also make sure that people know that when you go to select and do the add or delete path, you need to make sure that you select the path itself, because a lot of times what will happen is I will go in there and I'll forget, oh, I haven't selected the path, and so I don't have any little anchor points to add or delete. It's just sitting there, and I'm trying to put that pin down, and it starts making new paths.
So yes, make sure your object is selected. Same in Illustrator too. That's a little gotcha on me too. So, all right. So what are we gonna take a quick break, or are we gonna? Yes, okay. I'm being told we're...
The thumbs up.
We still don't want to hear from Dave yet.
We're going to make Dave wait a little while longer, but let's take a quick break. We'll be right back, and Dave's got something, and Pete's got a feature tutorial as well. We'll see you in a minute.
Hi, I'm Vincent Versace, and I've just completed 3 new tutorials for Kelby Training. From Oz to Kansas 2.0, almost every black and white conversion technique known to man, in which we take a look at all the reasons why you shouldn't do something and all the times when you should when it comes to black and white conversion. The Lazarus effect, how to undo an out-of-focus photograph, and image harvesting, how to extend the dynamic range of focus in a photograph. These 3 lessons come with actions, configurators, and all of the presets from my Wacom tablet and Cintiq, as well as the PDF that I give away with my book, Welcome to Oz 2.0, called The Why-To of My How, and 3 free plugins from Nik Software. So come check out my lessons. Thanks a lot.
We are back. And Dave's got something special for us. In fact, Dave and I are going to do everything we can to take as much time of the show as possible, so Pete has no time to do anything.
That's right.
I'm used to it.
So Dave, will you please?
I would be happy to. As I think you'll agree, one of the the fun parts about, one of the many fun parts about Photoshop is when you take a tool that might be made for one specific purpose, but you kind of do something interesting with it. And I was playing around with Refine Edge, which is a great way to make a more accurate selection, and just one of those accidents that happens, found something I thought was kind of interesting. So this is the photograph that I want to use, but I want to make some kind of edge effect. And rather than just starting right in this image, I tried to find some other photograph that just was kind of busy. You know, so it could be anything at all, but it just struck me with all this kind of stuff going on. So I just start with a really basic selection, my marquee selection. And I should add, it happens in this case by total coincidence, mind you, that both photos are the same size, but they don't have to be. It just happens for demonstration purposes. It works better that way. Then you go to Refine Edge. Now, of course, Refine Edge normally, if you first use it, might show like the marching ants, the overlay. For this particular one, I want to use the black and white view because I'm ultimately trying to make an edge that I'm going to apply to the other photographs. It's kind of easier to see. And the kind of trick, if you will, or the thing that makes it unusual is normally, of course, you use Smart Radius and the radius very slightly to try and increase, like get a bit of hair or something. In this case, it's like crank it all the way over and see what happens. And right away, you've got something kind of interesting. You turn on Smart Radius, see what that does. See, already that's kind of, to me, that's an interesting looking border effect. Now, to be honest, initially, the first time I started playing with all these settings in here too and going, what if I smooth it, that gives a different effect, what if I feather it? But then I realized if I do it here, that's going to limit myself on the other photographs. So really all I want to do is just get my kind of basic edge here. Now you could, if there was somewhere where you found you didn't really like it, you could use the Refine Edge tool to kind of paint a bit more in, or use the Option or Alt key to paint it out. I mean, that's just parts you could do if you wanted to kind of further your effect. But really all in this case I'm going to do is just tell it output to a selection. Then I take any selection tool, and just like you can drag and drop layers or pixels, you can drag and drop selections from one image to the other. So now I was able to drag it over, and like I said, by complete coincidence, it's exactly the right size. Now, if it wasn't...
And centered.
And centered, I know, how about that?
How did you manage that?
That I did with the Shift key. But, now, having said that, if it was too big, you could still scale it down, of course, using any method. But all I'm going to do is unlock the background layer by Option or Alt double-clicking, and then add a layer mask, and then just so we can see what it looks like, let's add a layer below, which will fill with white. But here's why I decided not to do those things like smoothing and feathering, because in CS5 we have this wonderful masks panel, which is basically the same thing, but now we're doing it to the mask. So now I could go and say, what happens if I smooth the edge, or if I feather it, or add more contrast? But I'm seeing it now in the context of my new photograph and really play with it, and just by experimenting. And the fun thing about this is once you do it once, you could easily drag this to another photograph, but still make it look quite different by just moving a few of these sliders and kind of seeing the effect that you want. And even then, of course, it's still ultimately, the result we're getting is still a mask. So at any point, you could go back and add feathering or change the settings. So it's a nice way. And what's kind of cool about it is, for those photographs you might otherwise look at and kind of go, yeah, it's not that great. Like this photograph, when I took it, I just actually took it with texture in mind, because it wasn't that I thought I'm going to frame that and put it on my wall. It was more, there's stuff going on in there that could make an interesting edge.
I keep an enormous library of textures for that same reason. You just never know. I look at things, it's like this could be a border, it could be anything.
Normally I take those pictures because my button gets hit as I'm walking, and I have a whole collection of those.
And now you have
all by accident.
A way you can use them for making interesting edge effects.
And one thing I love about it, and it's something I'm always pushing, is that go beyond what a tool is designed for. And people look at Refine Edge, it's like, oh, I'm only going to use that to really fine-tune selections. But when you experiment it, like you say, push those sliders in all directions and see what kind of different things you get all kinds of.
I've always had this expression or suggestion I give to people: when you look at any dialog box, if you see either a preview button and or a cancel button, that's like permission to experiment. Because there's not, what's the worst that can happen is you'll go, okay, I didn't like that, cancel, try something else. I mean, that's how you discover some of these.
The absolute worst that happens is it crashes the program. Oh well,
actually,
relaunch
the worst
and do something.
That can happen is flames will start pouring out of your laptop. But that's fairly rare.
I have seen smoke, but not quite fire yet. So.
Well, and one of the things I like to do when I find edges like that, I will not only make the selection, but once I get an edge I like, I will create a layer and fill it with black or whatever, and I have a whole collection of frames I've made. I just keep adding. I can take that and dump that onto another Photoshop file that I've got layers and layers of borders. That then I can go, oh, I need a grungy border, and I'll just go over there, click that open, and I'll just start cycling through.
Chances are you can get probably 3 or 4 different variations of frames from one single image.
Oh, easy.
Just by generating different types of selections and then modifying those settings, you can get. No, I could talk about this all day, of course. Pete, please, what do you have?
I have a giant squid on my screen. Actually, it's an octopus. It's singular, so octopus.
Yes.
Yes, I only see one.
Yes. Okay. What I'm going to talk about, I posted on the NAP website this week, sort of talking about this, but one of the things that I like to do is I like to keep my skills sharp by doing extracurricular challenges and things. And one of the best things that's helped me with compositing is I do something called steel cage battles over on iStockPhoto.com. And actually, we have Photoshop battles here on the NAP website as well. But what it is you challenge another person to go back and forth creating composites playing off the last image used. And the whole idea is to take some element from the past and bring it over into the new one and create a whole new image. And what this has done for me is it's really sharpened my compositing skills, because you have to go in there and you really have to work these things together. But then you have folks in there that'll be brutally honest, and they'll judge you. You actually have judges at the end say, this guy won and this guy didn't, and will tell you what you've done wrong. And it's just a great way to start delving into being creative and being excellent in your efficiency.
Is that Hogwarts?
That is actually, this is the wall to Hogwarts, if they bring it up. We added an extra challenge this time. My friend and I decided that we would only use elements that we had taken. So everything in here is from photographs that I've taken.
So you were actually at Hogwarts?
I was at Hogwarts. I was one of the cousins. She's cheering over there. Jen is a little crazy about Hogwarts, so there you go. But
He's actually been there.
I thought that was some signal for
to wrap it up. Shut up, Pete. Move on. But she's cheering Hogwarts.
No more Harry Potter references.
Gryffindor all the way. But so this was the first, what I noticed is we hadn't done it in a while, and what I noticed is my first one, I had to start out, and that's sometimes the hardest. When you have no framework, you can do whatever you want. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do because you have no constraints. So being able to say only using your certain photographs limits you a little bit more, and it gives you kind of the fences to play in. And so you start reaching through all your stuff. Well, then the next go around, I was able to be a little more free. I went to the wrong one. Forget the dog. There we go. And what happened was after the very first, that was not the picture you wanted to see. After the first one, I knew that I wanted to incorporate more of the octopus and stuff like that. Well, I happened to be going to Universal. And I went with my camera in mind to take a lot of pictures. And this is what you need to start doing. Why else would
one bring their camera?
Oh, well, take a lot of pictures. Very good. Thank you, Corey. Take a lot of reference photos. Thank you. And so what I've done is I went through and I said, I know I'm going to want to do some stuff that involves kind of temple and rocks and stuff. So while everybody else is taking pictures of Harry Potter and all these things, I'm taking pictures of rocks and all these sets that they've designed. Going to something like Universal is a great place to get a lot of textures because they've already done the hard work for you. They've built all this stuff that's going to look real that you have access to. I didn't have to go to a cave. And so I went and did all that. But what I want to talk to you about real quickly is that when you're working on these things, it's not a quick fix. If you're going to do it well, it's going to take a lot of layers. It's going to take a lot of subtle things. And so if you start looking at this image right here, I've got probably about 40 layers in here when I get all said and done, and I've merged some of them together, but each individual piece is just one little section that I've selected out and added in there and merged it together. And so if you really want to get good at making composites, you got to realize you're going to be working with a lot of layers because you can't just plunk something down and think that it's going to look right in there. You have to make soft edges. You've got to decide how the depth of field is going to be. You'll notice in here, I had to work with, if you look at this little octopi arm, are they arms? Tentacles.
Yeah.
I had to take it from his shot, which was this one right here, which I knew was going to be blurry. So I had to make a decision to make the front blurry and then make the background sharper. because I had to work with what he had. Well, normally you would think, make the front stuff sharp and the back blurry. Well, so that meant that anything I brought in the front here, I had to purposely blur, and that seems like a sin unless you're thinking depth of field. And to make this work, I had to make everything blurry back here. So what I've done is I've gone through and I have created all these things, but what's really going to sell your composite is to make sure in the end you apply a hue or saturation adjustment level. If I take this hue and saturation adjustment level off of here, you'll notice that it looks pretty good, but things just don't work out. The color of these tentacles here doesn't work with the others. If I simply turn on this hue and saturation level right here, and I'll even click on it, what happens is I can take and I can knock down the saturation, and it's going to meld everything together. And then I just simply change my hue, and it's going to affect the whole image in one shot. And that's a little trick that a lot of compositors use, is they will throw that over the top of whatever they've made, and it evens everything out, and it kind of fills in the cracks and makes everything look right. So all that to say is you can sit there and do something like this, and it's not a job. You're not doing it for a paycheck. You're doing it to learn. And that's what, just like when we're doing photography, keep shooting your camera. If you're doing composites, doing stuff like this, you want to better your craft, keep playing, because this is going to transfer directly into the jobs you have. And so that's kind of my tutorial for today. Go out and play, go out and find some people. It doesn't have to be on any site. Just find a guy, a gal, a friend of yours, and say, hey, let's go back and forth and let's see if we can push each other. And your level of efficiency and creativity is going to rise.
That's really interesting to me, Pete, that you should say that, because literally driving here this morning, I thought, a lot of photographers talk about how they practice, but a lot of Photoshop users don't ever practice. They just do work when they need to, but why not do that even by yourself?
They want to do that
just
tutorial
play and practice, just try things.
Yeah, they want to do that tutorial that gets them to the end, and that's it. They don't want to, experiment beyond that.
Well, and what made me think about it too is the great thing is I get to now look at, I send off my image, and then when he sends back his image, I get to take apart his Photoshop file and see what he's done. I've learned more about compositing by being able to study somebody else's stuff. It's just like sitting here. I want to not learn anything from Dave Cross, but dang it, every time he comes in, I learn something from him. I want to say, oh, I already knew that. And I'm like, crap, I never use mask. No. That mask panel. I hardly even knew it was there, but that's what happens is we build off each other, and we're creative folks. We need other creative outlets to stir us up.
I think if people are serious about getting that good in Photoshop, what I do, as busy as we can get, I always try and set aside a few hours a week for R&D time.
Yeah.
Just go in there and goof off, just play with things, because I got to think up new things. I don't want to constantly reuse over and over what I've already done. So definitely get there and experiment. So before we take another break, I think we should introduce
This is a very timely
new product. Today, especially, is what is it? The beta launch? The launch.
No, this is the
today
launch.
Is the launch of Lightroom 4. In fact, there is a live webcast later today.
In an hour and a half.
Hour and a half with
if we're
so we need to finish up.
We manage to finish by then. But with Scott Kelby and Matt Klaskowski are going to be presenting a live Lightroom 4 webcast here at noon today. Not here, but in the next room. But in relation to that, we actually have kind of a copy of Scott's newest Lightroom book, Lightroom 4 for digital photographers. You can see right here. You can be looking for this to be coming out very soon. I don't know if it's out just yet.
It's probably almost on the shelf.
Probably falling off the press.
Yes, you can pre-order.
Definitely pre-order
it's gonna be hot off the press.
KelbyTraining.com. Definitely check that out. It is, as it says right here, the #1 best-selling book on Lightroom. Wow. So
sure enough.
Be sure to check that out. So, all right. Let's take another quick break, and when we're back, we're going to do some contests and giveaways and a few more laughs, I guess, something like that.
We'll try.
Maybe throw something else in. All right, we'll see you in a bit.
Hi everybody, I'm David Zeiser. Hey, we have one great Kelby training video coming your way, and this time it's going to be on couples. What I'm trying to bring to this video is find the great locations to get some great photographs of your couples, how you can put great lighting on your couples, and then also how you can get great expressions. I can guarantee that you're going to love it. Join me on this Kelby training video, Shooting Couples.
Hi, my name's Dave Black. We're working with sports action using speed lights. We started out track and field with a sprinter coming out of the starting blocks. Then we got some great feature shots of baseball from a variety of angles. Had beautiful twilight sky behind him, and then we'd like re-illuminate him with a speed light setup. We moved on to faster action with motocross, where we had 3 great professional motocross riders for us on a super course. We used a combination of cross light with the sunshine and then the speed lights coming in to make a real dynamic look. It's exciting. You'll learn a lot. So come to KelbyTraining.com and watch my sports action with speedlights video. We'll see you there.
Well, hello. Oh, you're...
No, I was going to, never mind.
No.
I was just going to interrupt you, but go ahead.
That was all the best plans, and I was like, what just happened?
That's why I'm in the middle. All right.
We are back, and we just got a few more things. As you know, we like to always give you a chance to win some fabulous prizes. What do we have for them to win this time?
Well, Dave, we have Photoshop. I'm sorry. On-One Perfect Suite 6 for you to win, along with free Photoshop World Pass.
Ooh.
A Photoshop World Pass, yes, and we always have to make sure people understand it's a Photoshop World Pass, not an airline ticket or a hotel room.
Right.
We will get you in the door.
Unless Pete doesn't mind having a roommate, but you can email him later on.
Yeah,
so.
you can check.
Yeah, if you don't mind staying with me, my wife, and my 4 kids. Actually, we need a babysitter, so,
There
you know.
But how will they win this fabulous prize?
How will they win? Well, it's really very simple. You go to kelbytv.com. You'll see the page right there, Photoshop User TV, and there is a little comment place. Just leave some kind of comment. What we really would like, ideally, was give us some feedback or an idea for something you'd like to see, but that's okay. You can just go, hi, and that's an entry.
You say hi.
It's just random pick of someone who leaves a comment.
You might
there.
even win favor from Dave if you just write "Go Canada," and nothing else.
Now, I don't. None of us actually choose the winner, so any compliment is very nice, but doesn't
Yes,
actually.
they might simply forward it
influence.
to him, and he'll have a nice day.
Now, if there was a way to attach a $5 bill to your entry, that might help, but that, of course, you can't do that over the internet. So
Well, they could, but it wouldn't be real.
be like
But we
PayPal.
really do read the, if there are any suggestions for tutorials or stuff like that, we do
Absolutely,
have
yes.
them sent to us. So if you do want to know something, I've done tutorials and stuff straight off of those comment lines.
That is true.
Lines,
Look
comment
at it
sections.
as a cyberspace request line.
Yes.
Hey, just before we also wrap up, just a little note. Calvin Hollywood is, is this wonderful trainer from Germany. He's going to be at Photoshop World. He's also going to be doing a workshop with me here in Tampa. So if anyone wants to see the cool stuff that Calvin does, it's going to be a hands-on session where it combines photography and compositing and everything. So
Calvin's great. He's got a lot of
Calvin's a
guts.
mess.
really
We
does
love
some pretty
Calvin.
cool stuff. So
Bring the crazy Germans over here. Yeah. All right.
Next people too.
Okay, so I believe that wraps it up for us this week. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Pete.
Yep. Thank you, Corey.
And absolutely thank you to Dave Cross.
my pleasure. I just do have one question, Pete. Why do you have a picture of your dog on the screen, or a dog? Is that your dog or?
No,
a dog?
this is for. You're cheating. This is for next show. Don't look at
Okay,
it.
sorry.
Don't look at it.
I didn't see a dog. What
The
dog?
next episode.
That dog will be
not
back
see
in
a
about
dog.
10 minutes.
Which we will be back momentarily for the next episode if you're watching and you want to dare to watch again. Please
You're a
stay
glutton
with
for
us.
punishment. Come back in a few minutes.
All right, bye guys. See you later.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, no problem.